Hey everybody, Chris van der Kerk here at Bluerhino Safari Side. Trust you are doing well. 2026, I keep on populating. Today I'm putting out the Botswana route for 2026. It will be basically the same as the route for 2025 and 2024. It worked really well and I'm quite happy about it, and therefore it will look the same. The price is slightly different. That is the only thing that you will notice is different from 2025. One of the big reasons is that Botswana parks have put their prices up about 3 years ago. Then I upped my price to accommodate that. And then ultimately I kept my price the same for 2 years. And I needed to change now because all the supporting areas are putting their prices up as well. So if you go to Botswana, to the Bluerhino tours of 2026, you'll see Botswana Delux is there. So let's quickly go through the detail. Departure date, our first night, 13 July 2026. It's for 10 nights, and that is 16,000 Rand per person. So it's 1,300 Rand up from the old price. Which is not a lot because that price I held for 2 years in a row. So that is not too bad. Maximum 14 people. Children, if I say no children, it's like under 12s, no. One of the reasons is we're quite far away from civilization, in the middle of nowhere, and you don't want kids to injure themselves and you need to go to a hospital or see a doctor urgently, because in some of these places it's a bit remote and urgency is a difficult thing to accommodate. But yeah, it tells you exactly, roughly what we are going to do when we go there and what we will see as well. This picture, if you haven't seen this picture before, this used to be my old troopie. This is just short of Savuti, in a very wet year that they had in April. So it won't be this wet, don't worry about it. But otherwise it's all on the website. But I'm going to go through the map with you and just explain to you exactly what you should expect and why we do what we do. So our first night is in Nata. Nata Lodge is a very well-known camping site for travelers. They've got a very good restaurant, so you don't have to worry about food, and from Johannesburg you can make Nata in a day. The other nice thing is that Nata is on the Makgadikgadi pans, and therefore you can actually maybe go a day early and the next day visit the pans with them, or drive yourself. You can do that as well, and you go in at the Nata Bird Sanctuary. And you can spend the day there, eat in the restaurant, swim in the pool, just have, it's winter, so you won't do that, but just have a nice relaxed day. I meet you in the evening, I hand out radios, we have a quick briefing to make sure everybody knows what they need to do and when they need to be where. And the next morning we tackle the road up to Kasane. We try to be in Kasane around about 1 o'clock in the afternoon because there's a boat ride on the Chobe River in the late afternoon, normally at about 3. And for those who are interested in a boat ride, we are there. We'll book that up front before we get there. So you'll go out on your boat ride. We fill our vehicles with fuel. There's a very nice shop right in next to our campsite. So we stock up with what we still need, because after this we are going to go away from all shops for the next few days. Then on the third morning I enter the Chobe National Park on the Chobe River, and I do the river road, and we do the complete river road all the way to Ngoma at the Katima, or at the Caprivi tip. So we do the whole route. We just follow the road. We stop for coffee, we stop for lunch, and it takes us a few hours. We exit normally around about 3:30 thereabout, and then drive down to our campsite, which is outside of the park, but overlooking the Caprivi tip. Next morning, a little bit of a late departure, not a long day. We just need to make our way through to Linyante. Linyante, lovely campsite. You're on the banks of the Linyante River, overlooking the swamp area. So there's always elephant and lechwe and birds and things around there. and very nice just to take the afternoon off, sit on the banks on your chair and just look at the sunset in front of you. One of the most spectacular sunsets that you have in our area. Then the next morning, it is a quick drive to get through to Savuti. So what we do is we drive through to Savuti and we have lunch at our campsite. So we check in at Savuti, we have lunch, and then we go out for a drive in the afternoon. We'll decide what we want to do, rhino flay, harvest bands. There's a few things around that you can do. But we basically take the afternoon to go for that game viewing experience. I'll also take you to the rock art in the area. I'll show you the rock art and explain a few things about rock art if you don't know it and haven't seen it before. So I'll have a few stories around that as well. Then back to camp. There's a nice waterhole right outside of the campsite. So people would normally go out there, sit with the sundowner, and then it's 5 minutes to get back to camp. Just before sunset, you pop back. Fire is going. I've already started getting the fire and everything ready, so have a nice evening, have a nice braai. Savuti, always a nice place to camp. We are there for one night. The next morning we make our way down to Kwai, which is the entrance to the Moremi, and we have the whole day to do that. So again, we take little back roads and we go do a little bit of game viewing, and then ultimately we tackle the road south to get to Kwai. So we exit the Chobe, we enter Kwai. We don't sleep in the community side. We sleep inside of the park, so inside of the gates of Kwai. And Kwai has impressed me so much in recent years that with the amount of animals that they have on the Kwai River, that but staying inside of the park to me really makes a big difference. So we go into the park, we set ourselves up for the night, and that is basically it. The next day we go for a day drive. Normally it's the morning up till about lunchtime. We stop somewhere for coffee, maybe somewhere for lunch, but we do the Kwai River stretch, either north or south, depending on what we want to do. And then the day after that we pack up and we head out to Third Bridge. Again, it's a game drive day. We go past Paradise Pools. We'll stop for lunch there. There's opportunity for a boat ride, just to see what it looks like if you haven't been on the Delta with a boat. And then ultimately we arrive at Third Bridge. The Third Bridge we're only going to do 2 nights. So we are driving in over the Fourth Bridge, Third Bridge, and into camp. And then we sleep for the night. And the next day we will then decide where we go to. We can go down to the Kini area. Black Bulls is a little bit far, but we can go there. It all depends on what we see. If there's wild dog in the area and the lions are in the area and there's nice game in the area, then quite often you don't have to go very far. You can just hang around there. So there's a lot of places that you can drive around in the Moremi area. But we go for 2 nights. After the second night, we make our way out via Second Bridge, First Bridge, out at South Gate, and all the way through to Maun. We arrive in Maun probably about 3 in the evening or in the afternoon. Out of Maun, that's our last night. Again, a very nice restaurant at the campsite, but that's our last night. So we close off, have a nice meal, and that's the end of the trip. Next morning early, I head back home. It's about 1,200 kilometers, so it takes a full day's drive to get back to Johannesburg, but I head back to Johannesburg. It's a great tour. 2025 is still a few months away for me, but I'm already excited because it is exactly the same trip, and it is the same one that I did last year, and it was really good, regardless of animals, because you quite often think that if you don't see animals, then it'll wreck your holiday. But it's not true. In this case, you will see animals. That's unquestioned. But it doesn't really matter if it's an extraordinary year or a normal year, because the campsites are really so nice. They are so unique. They are so special. To spend the time in these campsites are really good. So it's in the parks. We don't sleep outside and go in as day visitors. It's a very interesting thing when Botswana's prices went up. If you know my trips, I used to sleep outside and drive in for the day. And then as soon as Botswana's prices went up in the parks, for some reason, my trips switched. And people said, no, we want to sleep in the park. So guests have been happy to pay a little bit more to be able to sleep inside of the park rather than outside. And I have to say, I think it does make a difference. Third Bridge campsite, you cannot replace it with anything outside. Kwai campsite, lovely campsite. Yes, there might be places that you can replace it with on the outside, but what's the point? Sleep inside, you're there. You don't have to worry about getting through the gate and doing all the paperwork in the morning. It's straightforward. You're already in the park. So if you look at the price and say, a little bit expensive, yes, it is, because we are sleeping in the parks. And the campsites in the parks are also a lot more expensive than the campsites outside. Cool. The last thing that you need to know is if you are not a South African, then there is an extra charge on this because my prices are quoted for SADC people. So locally we get a discount. If we visit Botswana with a South African passport, we get a bit of a discount. So if you're an international guest, you're welcome to come. It's not a problem. It will not affect you that much, but there is a 18 or 20% charge on top of the advertised price, just to cover our costs when we visit the places that have international rates. For example, the parks. They have an international rate, a SADC rate, and a Botswana rate. So we fall under the SADCs, the South Africans. But if you're an international guest, not from Southern African region, then you'll pay the international rate. So I just add it in. You don't have to worry about it. I'll just send you an invoice for a small extra amount, which is the extra that you need to pay. But if you have a few days in July in 2026 and you want to see Botswana, I only do one of these trips a year. I can't do more. I just don't have the time for it. So there's always only one and it's always full. So if you want to go, be sure to get your name through to me very urgently. I am open for bookings for 2026 already. So have a look at the website and make your decision and send me your booking. The way it works, you send me a request. You say we want to join the tour. I send you a quotation. That quotation has an expiry date on it, and that is your provisional booking. So typically, it would be a week or 2 weeks, depending on how busy that trip is. So I will say, there's your quotation. It expires in 7 days, which means to secure your place, you'll then have to pay the deposit requirement on that quotation, and that will confirm your spot for the trip. That's it. It's easy. Pay your money, bring your tent, bring your car, bring a few cokes, and we're going to have a great time in Botswana. It's always a good one. It's a good time of the year as well. So drive safe until we see each other again on a trip. Cheers.